Good evening and welcome as we're set to give you OCAA men's volleyball here. Mohawk Mountaineers versus the Fanshawe Falcons. I'm Cody Lake alongside Wes Linwood. And Wes, we got a really important event going tonight.
We do. We've got the Green Night going. In respect to mental illness awareness, everyone has been asked to dress in green in support of the notion. And the first 100 people to attend will receive a free green t-shirt. They will also have cotton candy, popcorn, and prize giveaways for each game with a grand prize of $200 at Mercedes Salon and Day Spa.
That's fantastic. Wes, we're already underway here as Mohawk takes the first point of the game.
Mohawk with the serve. Elijah Lopez. Fanshawe with the set. And an absolute power blast. But Mohawk manages to keep it up, but Fanshawe just tips it over as Elijah Lopez dives to try to keep it in, but can't get close enough. And Fanshawe has gotten themselves on the board.
Taking a look at players to watch out for here. Cole Jordan is most likely Fanshawe's top player, especially whenever it comes to blocking. You're going to want to watch out for his defense and what he looks to do here.
What a point Mohawk just earned with a quick tip over the net. Just a quick, nice tip over the net. Nice, easy point. Mohawk's up 2-1 now. Mohawk with the serve. Fanshawe sets. And a quick tip. Oh, Elijah Lopez with the dive. But again, just barely out of reach as it hits the ground. And Fanshawe, and they are still tied 2-2. Keeping this close so far in the early parts of this game. Fanshawe, number 11 now with the serve. Mohawk with an absolute blast, but Fanshawe puts up the hands and blocks it, and it is now 3-2 for Mohawk.
Now taking a look at Mohawk's player to watch, McFadden, number 13, is arguably Mohawk's top player and is in second for total kills scored and first in kills per set ratio in the entire league.
Fanshawe just gets a point as Mohawk goes to smack the ball, but it goes out of bounds. Fanshawe with the serve. And point for Mohawk as Fanshawe serves it out of bounds.
Smart decision there, just to walk with it, watch it go right out of bounds.
The set by Fanshawe. And the blast by Fanshawe, but the ball is out, so it is another point for Mohawk. It is tied 4-4 currently. And Mohawk has the serve. Raphael Light with the serve for Mohawk, and Fanshawe returns it but could not put the ball over the net as they come through with the absolute blast, but they put it directly into the net. Mohawk with the serve again.
And as we get set here, it's important to note that Fanshawe, just like their girls, very good, actually better. They've been undefeated so far this season.
Undefeated so far this season. Mohawk will definitely look to take a chunk out of them and maybe knock them down a couple pegs.
Well, they're doing their job right now as they're up by 2 here, 6-4 on the early goings.
6-4, Raphael Light doing a great job of serving so far for Mohawk.
That's an ace right there.
An absolute laser beam directly through the middle of the Fanshawe team, and I don't know if they thought it was going to go out of bounds, but they just let the ball go. Raphael Light with the serve again. That is 4 in a row. He has been quite spectacular, and he makes the play again. What a blast from Mohawk, but they put the ball out of bounds, so it is a point for Fanshawe. And Mohawk still commands a lead of 7-5 against Fanshawe, but it's still quite early in the first set of the game.
It's not hard to believe that Fanshawe is undefeated now, as they've had the same coach since 2013.
They've had the same coach for 4 years. That definitely, after 4 years of coaching, you definitely have to have some sort of team chemistry and know how your team will run. which definitely goes towards how good Fanshawe has been. What a diving play from Elijah Lopez. And Elijah Lopez again with the diving dig.
What athleticism he's showing off here.
Mohawk with the set. Lopez with the blast. But Fanshawe returns it. Mohawk keeping the ball up. Fake blast. And Mohawk manages to get... No, that is a point for Fanshawe as Mohawk blasted it, but it went just outside of the boundary line.
And comparing coaches, Steve Stone for Mohawk is just a first-year coach. Rookie season, he's doing his best.
Looking to take a chunk out of Patrick Johnson.
Oh, he'd love to.
Who is his veteran. What a weird point for Fanshawe there as they get the ball and it barely trickles over the net for a point for Fanshawe.
Speaking of Coach Stone, he didn't just get this position. He's been with the team a while. He's been an assistant coach for multiple years, and he ended up just taking over the role when when the men's coach stepped down to the women's team. So he just took over this year, and that's why that happened.
Guy clearly has been doing a good job in his promotion, as Mohawk's been playing pretty well so far to start this game. Point for Fanshawe as Mohawk tried to see if the ball Mohawk tried to see if the ball didn't touch them, but in fact it did.
Yeah, that was Cockless there who threw his hand up and tried to justify that he didn't touch the ball.
Served by number 5 on Mohawk, Zachary Brown. Elijah Lopez sets the ball up, and an absolute blast, but Fanshawe keeps the ball in play. Oh, just a quick little flick of the wrist, and Fanshawe gets another point on the board, and they are now down by only 1.
An assistant coach there for Mohawk has 5 tips already, and he's right. They've been too good on their tight play. They're just putting the ball in nice little spots. They're not focusing on those hard hits.
Nice little pockets in the court, and they're just dropping them. A nice absolute blast by Mohawk. Oh, Fanshawe with the tip again, but Mohawk keeps it alive. Elijah Lopez with the diving dig again. What an absolute blast.
From the back row.
From number 7, Brandon Cockless. An absolute laser beam. Puts it so hard off the Fanshawe player that he just can't handle it and goes right out of bounds. And the cotton candy makes its way through the stands again.
Yes, and speaking of the stands, they're starting to get pretty packed now.
Point for Fanshawe's. Mohawk served the ball out of bounds. A beautiful set and a beautiful spike by Mohawk, but to no avail as they put the ball out of bounds again.
That's been an issue here. They're hitting the ball hard and they're getting it through the defense, but they just can't keep it in.
They cannot keep the ball in.
Doesn't matter how hard you hit it if you're not hitting it in bounds.
But Fanshawe is doing no better as they have also put the ball out a solid 5 times to give Mohawk 5 easy points that they haven't even really had to earn.
Oh, no, that's just giving away points there. You never want to just throw away a serve or a spike, a chance at a kill.
Number 18, Paul Wagner, serving for Mohawk right now. An absolute just spike directly into the ground by number 9, Raphael Light. Serving up a storm and then just putting him into the ground, too. He has been all over the court so far this game.
Oh, he's been very noticeable here early on. I have to agree with you 100%.
Service by Mohawk. And that is a point for Fanshawe as the ball is out. Mohawk leads Fanshawe 12-11 currently, as we are about halfway through this first set of the game. Served by Fanshawe. Set. And a spike by Raphael Light, but Fanshawe manages to keep it alive. Fake spike and an absolute blast by Elijah Lopez, but to no avail as Fanshawe puts up the wall and blocks it. And that is a point for Fanshawe. They're even at 12 now. Number 5 for Fanshawe is taking the serve. David Gundrum. A nice little softie into the zone. Mohawk players collide but manage to save each other, and that is a point for Fanshawe as it is a double hit by Mohawk.
Yeah, that was a collision there between Lopez and Tripp.
They almost went for a trip.
Yeah, almost.
And now Fanshawe has the ball. And Gundrum serves again, puts the ball out of bounds. Easy point for Mohawk to tie it up again.
The Mohawk bench has been very hyped to start this game. They see the fact that they're playing with the same intensity as Fanshawe, and the undefeated record hasn't really been a factor in scaring them.
Elijah Lopez with the serve, but floats it out of bounds. So Fanshawe is now up once again, and it has been a back and forth battle between Mohawk and Fanshawe for this lead.
Oh, more lead changes than I can count personally. They're back and forth every 2 seconds.
Nothing like the Mohawk game earlier, which was an absolute blowout.
Oh, yeah. The girls put up a good fight, but they weren't able to grab a single set.
That is a point by Fanshawe because Mohawk had yet again another double hit, and that's the second one so far. Coaches on Mohawk not very impressed with that call, but not much they can do about it. Service by Fanshawe. What a point by number 6 on Mohawk, Alex Tripp. Oh,
no, they're calling
take away a point. It is a double hit.
Yeah, they're calling that a double hit, which is really weird. That it was a backwards volley.
It was
over.
a backwards volley, but I don't quite see how that was a double hit as 2 different players touched the ball, but I am not the referee. Tripp keeps the ball alive, and that is number 7, Brandon Cokeless, who smacks the spike and gets the point for Mohawk. Mohawk has the serve. Fanshawe with the set. Point for Fanshawe as they smashed it and went out of bounds, but they just managed to make Mohawk barely touch the ball. So it is still Fanshawe's point. And Fanshawe, number 11 on Fanshawe, has the serve. Jacob Scobie. Rafael Lopez with the spike that hits the net but still goes over, and Fanshawe manages to recover. What a save that was.
And they're forced to take the 4th hit here.
As that is a point for Fanshawe, and Fanshawe has gotten quite a lead of 18-14 right now as the team calls a timeout.
Yeah, and they need one here as they're starting to slip and fall behind a little bit. They don't want to let the set get out of their hands here.
No, a very strong showing by Mohawk, but they've just really let the last couple points slip away from them as they put 2 balls out of bounds themselves and have not been able to keep 2 inbounds after successful blocks. Mohawk is definitely being successful in their blocking game so far, but they need to control the ball more to keep it inbounds because it's really hurt them.
We get a good look at the Fanshawe Falcons here as they get together, and now we switch over to the Mohawk Mountaineers as soon as I say that. Mohawks hoping to give Fanshawe that first loss. It's something that's really difficult to do once teams get on a roll.
If you're on a 9-game win streak like Fanshawe is, you're really looking to keep that win streak alive, but there's nothing more that Mohawk would want than to absolutely emasculate Fanshawe by taking away their 9-game win streak from them. And now they take the court again.
And not only is that a big deal for them to make Fanshawe lose, it's an even bigger deal because they're on a losing streak right now, and they don't want to keep that downward trend.
No, you always want to keep it up. You want to turn that loss streak upside down real fast. That's what Mohawk's looking to do here against the best team in their division.
And if they do so, yes, it will be quite the upset and quite the turnaround.
Fanshawe, number 11, serves the ball right now. Jacob Scobie.
Yeah, not Scooby-Doo.
Not Scooby-Doo, Scobie, yeah. And a point by Fanshawe with an absolute blast. Fanshawe commanding a 5-point lead now. Jacob Scobie with the serve again for Fanshawe. And a beautiful little tip by Raphael Light. And it is a point for Mohawk. As the Fanshawe player dove for the ball, but it was a lift as he tried to get it over. What an absolute block by Lopez. And then another absolutely destructive block by Mohawk. Number 13, Mitch McFadden, the player to look out for with a destructive block for Mohawk. So they are coming back. They have closed the gap to 3 points now.
Yeah, and you're usually looking towards his defensive benefits, but that was a nice play right there.
That was an absolute laser beam by McFadden. And Mohawk takes another easy point here as the Falcons just watch the ball go by and land inbounds. So Raphael Light is taking the serve again.
That one just tipped the net.
An absolute blast by Mitch McFadden, asserting his dominance into this early part of this game. Two absolute cannons, one after another, to really bring themselves back into this game as they're only down by 1 point now. Raphael Light with the serve.
Speaking of McFadden, he ranks second for total kills scored and first in kills per set ratio with a ratio at 4.69.
That is a point for Fanshawe as Mohawk kept it alive but could not get the ball over the net. Service by Fanshawe. Mohawk keeps it alive. And an absolute spike, but it is blocked by the Fanshawe D. Lopez comes in for an absolutely brutal spike, but Fanshawe keeps the ball alive. Mitch McFadden comes in with the absolute cannon, and it is a point for Mohawk as it goes directly off of the Fanshawe player and almost hits us over here.
Yeah, that was a costly block error. You don't want to give those up, especially whenever we're getting this late into the set with a close set going on.
This is a very, very close first set here. A very good start way to set the tempo of the game for both teams. So they both come out very strong.
Yeah, high action, high tempo, like you said, and it looks like it's going to be a very good game.
Serve by Mohawk. Number 3, that was Andrew Kong with the serve. Lopez with the dive to keep it in, but Mohawk, and they keep the ball alive.
That was a strong play by McFadden there to get it over the net. And he gets a dig as well.
Point for Mohawk as Fanshawe blasts the ball out of bounds after 2 key keep-alives from Mitch McFadden. The star player to look out for Mohawk has been asserting himself as so far this game.
Yeah, he's just as advertised to start this game.
Mohawk now serves the ball. Fanshawe with the dig and the volley, and they send it over the net. Mitch McFadden keeps it alive. Mitch McFadden with the spike, but puts the ball out of bounds. So Fanshawe is now up 21-20 on Mohawk. For what a close game we have here. Fanshawe with the serve. Number 6 for Fanshawe was serving, Will Otten. And that is a point for Mohawk.
And Mohawk bench, they're getting a little bit loud now as they were trying to phase him out on that serve, and it worked.
Mohawk's mind games are working so far in their favor. Mitch McFadden with the serve. Fanshawe with the diving dig to keep the ball alive. And what a blast by Fanshawe, but Mohawk puts up the wall. Oh, and a smart play by Fanshawe to tip the ball to the farthest corner before blasting it just inside the line for a beautiful point. Which gives themselves the 1 point lead, 22-21 late here in the first set. They set the ball, and a blast by number 7 on Mohawk. That is Brandon Cokeless. And an absolute blast by Lopez against... Oh, that is a point for Fanshawe, actually, as the ball had touched as the Mohawk player had put their hand over the net during that spike. So the referee ended up calling the point for Fanshawe. So now Fanshawe has a 2-point lead, 23-21 at Mohawk. And a timeout is called by one of the teams.
Yeah, that was called by Mohawk. They're just trying to regroup here. They don't want to lose this set because they felt as though they've done what they want to do. They kept up.
They've been battling very, very strong with Fanshawe, and it's a very good, close game to see.
Yeah, it's been very equal. I feel like many people wouldn't think it was going to be that equal with how these teams have been doing.
Mohawk will really want to make Fanshawe, well, they'll really want to capitalize on Fanshawe's mistakes, because Fanshawe hasn't made many mistakes, but so far Mohawk has been good by capitalizing on Fanshawe's mistakes, which has kept them in this game, even though they're still down by 2 points. This still is anybody's set, as Mohawk can easily turn the tide, as it has we have seen so far this set. Served by number 10 on Fanshawe, Mike Liscombe. And oh, what a play by Mohawk to keep the ball alive. And an absolute blast. That is a point for Mohawk by number 7 on the team, Brandon Cokeless, with the absolute laser beam.
And he's had some strong strikes.
He has had some strong
tonight.
strikes. Him and Mitch McFadden have been so far carrying the team this set with their strong offensive play. At Mohawk now has the serve, number 18, Paul Wagner. Fanshawe with the dig and the blast. That is a point for Fanshawe as number 3, Andrew Kong, tries to keep the ball in play but cannot handle it as they blast it directly at him and it goes out of play. It is now 24-22 for Fanshawe. Fanshawe can take the set with this point if they can get it. Number 5 serving Zachary Brown. Number 5 serving Grundrum for Fanshawe. Kong keeps the ball alive. And an absolute blast, but Fanshawe keeps it going. And Mohawk goes up for a block, and Raphael Light comes down hard without the points as well as Fanshawe takes the first set, 25-22.
That was a very close set that Fanshawe just picked up there. Looked like it could have went either way until the very end, but it just, there wasn't enough of a push, I feel like.
There wasn't. Mohawk will really have to battle back if they want to tie this game up here.
Or else they're going to find themselves in a similar situation as the girls did earlier this evening.
Yep, they battled really, except the boys were off to a lot better of a start in the first set. I must say they battled a lot harder and was a lot closer.
Yeah, well, I would have to agree with that. They don't seem that outmatched, which some people might have thought they were.
They're not outmatched at all. The records of these teams definitely don't show the skill that each team has. Obviously, the 9-0 record proves how good of a team Fanshawe is, but Mohawk's record really doesn't stand to show the China team that they have, as they're keeping neck and neck with this undefeated Fanshawe team. And you've got more and more green showing up here.
Oh, yeah, the crowd's looking good. They aren't near as excited as they were before, but I'm sure once the game gets going back on, then the energy levels will get right back up. We're going to take a look at some highlights now, though. So it was a really great first set of action. There was some strong hits, some good tips. Fanshawe coming up the better team, though, in this one so far.
Mohawk could definitely have a lot better of a game. They just need to tighten up here, as Fanshawe just has that narrow lead, and the only thing that's really cost Mohawk here has been the couple points that they've put out of bounds, because they have not been very disciplined on keeping the ball in bounds. A lot of their spikes, even Mitch McFadden, the key player to look for, has put a couple key shots out of bounds. It really cost Mohawk that set there. We see some kids having a good old time with Mo the Hawk. It's always a good time hanging out with Mo the Hawk.
Well, when you take a quick look at the stats, you can see that Mohawk's biggest asset are aggressive players with high amounts of flat kills and kills per set, but no appearance in the top 5 for hitting percentage.
Ooh. That's definitely hurting Mohawk.
Well, Fanshawe has a little bit more of a precise approach, and this means that they have no appearance in total kills. However, they have two players dominating the hitting percentage to show for it. This should make for an interesting game with Mohawk and Fanshawe having really different play styles. Fanshawe has great synergy with the first place in assists per set. Mohawk is 7th in that field, though.
Wow, that's a big difference between Fanshawe and Mohawk. And Mohawk's definitely going to be looking to make up for that difference between themselves and Fanshawe.
It obviously looks as though Fanshawe is going to be setting up nicer plays, more crisp plays, whereas Mohawk's going to be going more for that straight power approach.
As you've definitely seen by Mitch McFadden just absolutely blasting some laser beams, along with Raphael Light, too, have been putting some absolute blast through the Fanshawe team.
Yeah, and also for Mohawk, Lopez has been doing a crazy job with his athleticism. He's getting the balls, getting to the hard places.
His defense has kept Mohawk in the game, as I single-handedly counted at least 6 to 7 saves that he himself made, diving headfirst to keep the play alive.
Wonderful digs, wonderful digs. We're just about set for action to get here for the second set.
Just about to start going here. It looks to be that Mohawk will get the first serve, and it looks like Mitch McFadden will be serving for Mohawk to start off this set.
Not their worst choice.
No, I think it's a pretty solid choice. You got to go with your best player to start off, right?
And the Fanshawe bench was trying to get into McFadden's head there, but they couldn't do it.
Just a beautiful little tip by number 7 on Mohawk. Brandon Cokeless just barely puts it over the net and just inside the line to give Mohawk that first point of the set, which people may not think a lot, but that first point is ever so crucial to really set the tone in the set for you.
Well, if you were to trade points, since then you have a much better chance of getting up there. You know, it seems like so.
Oh, an absolute blast from Fanshawe, but that is no point as the ball was out of bounds. Mohawk takes a 2-0 lead, and this is exactly what we were talking about earlier. Mohawk is capitalizing on Fanshawe missing key spikes. And Mitch McFadden serves the ball again for Mohawk. And that is out of bounds. A little too much power as he gives Fanshawe his first point. Now Fanshawe will serve the ball. Number 12 for them, Cole Jordan, will be serving the ball.
This is
the man with
Fanshawe's
2 first
player
names
to watch out for. Currently tied in first place for hitting percentage. Jordan is going to be a really special player to
What a block by Jacob Kloosterhoff and Cole Jordan with an absolute double block for Fanshawe.
And to go along with that hitting, Cole Jordan's got some spectacular defense, as you just witnessed.
That is a point for Mohawk as Mohawk returns to serve, but the Fanshawe player just barely puts it out of bounds. So Mohawk now has the 3-2 lead in the game. Mohawk now has the serve, number 18, Paul Wagner.
And they continue to heckle from their
Teams
bench.
continue to heckle each other, trying to get into each other's heads, because this is all a mental game at this point. That is a point for Fanshawe. I'm not quite sure what the call is. I believe it was a lift. Yep, that was a lift by Mohawk trying to keep the ball alive. So now it is tied at 3. Number 11, Jacob Scobie, serving for Fanshawe, puts the ball out of bounds directly over Mitch McFadden's head, who just lets it soar right out of bounds for the easy point. And now Elijah Lopez is serving. And massive heckling from this Fanshawe team, trying to get into the other team's head. Lopez keeping the ball alive. An absolute blast from Lopez, but they keep it alive. And that is a point for Fanshawe, as Tripp and Light both go up for the ball, but both come down with themselves, and a point for Fanshawe, as it is 4-4 now. It sounds like the coach of Fanshawe was just telling his players to quiet down a bit as to not try to get any unsportsmanlike. What a block by Fanshawe. Number 10, Mike Liscombe. 2 hands up, 2 hands down, and the ball hits the ground on Mohawk's side as Fanshawe's now up 5-4. Raphael Light, that is 2 blocks in a row that he has missed to save, which has cost Mohawk their lead, and now they are losing 6-4. Number 15, serving Jacob Klusterhoff for Fanshawe.
You can definitely tell that Fanshawe has been capitalizing on the fact that Mohawk's best players are killers, and with that, they're just lightly tapping, and they're just breaking the Mohawk defense apart.
Number 7 on Mohawk with the serve, Brandon Cokeless. Fanshawe keeps the ball alive after the serve, and they come in for a huge spike, but they keep it. Mohawk keeps it alive. Fanshawe with the diving. And an absolute weird shot, if anything, as they go to spike the ball, and it runs directly on the inside of their net, out of bounds. 4 point for Mohawk, as it is now 6-6, and they have cut the lead and made it even. An absolute blast by Mitch McFadden, but Fanshawe manages to keep it alive. Lopez with the ball up, and Raphael Light goes up and comes down with nothing as he goes to spike the ball and completely overshoots it, as that's a point for Fanshawe, and they're now up 7-6. Fanshawe with the serve here. Raphael Light with the blast, but to no avail. Chris Dashford keeps the ball alive, and Mitch McFadden comes in for the absolute blast. Fanshawe keeps the ball. Ooh, Raphael Light with the block. Mohawk keeps it in after a block that would have gone out of bounds. They keep it alive here.
Fanshawe was calling for the lift there, but it doesn't matter because they get the point anyways.
A just nice quick tap of the wrist over the net. That has been the downfall of both Mohawk teams so far in these 2 games. They've just been very, very vulnerable to the small tips over the net as they're looking to block the absolute blasts. But when they don't come, there's not much they can do about it.
And that's definitely the risk of playing an aggressive play style.
That's the thing with Mohawk. They play a very high risk, high reward play style.
Rewards were just cashing in there as Lopez smacks that down for the kill.
An absolute blast to put Mohawk within one of Fanshawe. Raphael Light serving the ball. And Fanshawe with the spike off of number 7, Brandon Cokeless, but out of bounds. So that is a point for Fanshawe as they keep the 2-point lead going here. Fanshawe with the serve. What a kick by number 18, Paul Wagner, to keep the ball alive.
Yeah, that was more of a knee there.
That was a flying knee, taking a page right out of the UFC to keep the ball alive in that game. But to no avail as it was, as Fanshawe still picks up the point and now has a 3-point lead on Mohawk. An absolute blast from Mitch McFadden. Mohawk's offense is the only reason they are still in this game. It has been absolutely phenomenal.
And that's exactly what we were talking about with that high-risk, high-reward play style as they get another one.
An absolute blast from number 12 on Fanshawe.
That's Cole Jordan right there.
Cole Jordan, the man with 2 first names, coming in with an absolute blast. Fanshawe, number 5 on Fanshawe with the serve. Gundrum serving again. Chris Dashford keeps the ball alive for Mohawk. And Lopez comes in for the spike, and it just manages to hit off of the Fanshawe squad, which gives Mohawk... No, I was wrong. That is Fanshawe's point.
Yeah, it came off as a block error.
That is correct. It did come off as a block error.
Making it a 4-point lead for Fanshawe now.
12-8. An absolute spike as Mitch McFadden goes to just barely lob the ball over the net, but ends up setting it up perfectly for the other team as they blast it directly back at him, and they have a 5-point lead now. Let's see if Mohawk can make a comeback here. Mitch McFadden volleys the ball to keep it alive. Oh, Mitch McFadden with just a nice little flick of the fingers over the net to get a nice, beautiful little point to try to bring Mohawk back into this game.
Wow, and what a difficult play not to get called on the lift there.
Very close, very close. I definitely thought it could have been possibly a lift, but that's just how close to the line it was. Mitch McFadden with the serve after the point. And a big block by Brandon Cokeless for Mohawk.
Yeah, and that's no doubt. You're not blocking anybody there. When you block Cole Jordan on a chance that he has a good opportunity to hit, you know you did your job.
Because he is a powerhouse for that Fanshawe team. Mitch McFadden serving, and the Fanshawe team clearly trying to get into his head, as he absolutely has a...
He's getting an ace. He got an ace there. They tried to get into his head, and he said, nope, you're just not gonna hit it.
Absolutely carrying this Mohawk team back into it. Regardless of all the heckling from the Fanshawe bench, it is not getting to him as he is just powering through this Fanshawe team. And a big block by Lopez, and they keep the ball alive here. Chris Dashford puts it up. Oh, that is an out-of-bounds play as Brandon Cokeless jumped out of bounds to keep it in, but touched the ground before he touched the ball, it seems. So that is a point for Fanshawe as they are up by 3 still. Cole Jordan now serving again. Hits the net, but Chris Dashford keeps it alive. A nice little put over the net by number 15 to Fanshawe. And an absolute blast by Brandon Cokeless, which goes off of the Fanshawe player and out.
Yeah, that was just too powerful. You're not ever going to return those.
No, Mohawk very much has their attacks and kills down to a science, as they have been they've been almost like a machine in carving out these points to bring themselves back into this game, as they are still only down by 2. Number 18 just served for Mohawk. They're keeping the play going. Mitch McFadden with a blast, but he puts it out of bounds. That is the first mistake in quite a while for McFadden, as he has been almost perfect so far this game. Mohawk now down by 3, looking to still continue to make their comeback.
And we know they love that aggressive play style, but that might be the issue here. They're trying too hard to hit that ball with velocity and trying to hit that thing.
And it just ends up backfiring on them, as Fanshawe's put up solid blocks and a solid wall to keep the ball on the other team's side. So when Mohawk comes up to try to put it through them, it's just not working.
Just like that right there, as Elijah Lopez thinks more power and less spot. And instead of hitting a nice easy tip, he hits it right into the net.
Blasted directly into the net, and it's now 16-12 for Fanshawe as the timeout is called.
Mohawk takes the timeout here.
Mohawk takes the timeout, really looking to try to revamp their team here to get them back into it, as they were really close in the first set, but it looks like Fanshawe is starting to pull away here a little bit.
Yeah, and when you take a look at Fanshawe's, they're looking to keep this roll going. They haven't had much issue here, and they seem pretty in control.
For sure, but Mohawk is definitely not out of the game by any means, as their aggressive and unpredictable offense is what kept them alive in this game, and it's what's been driving them all season long. And Mitch McFadden has just been leading them through that, as we can see, because he's had about half of Mohawk's points so far this set alone, which would make him 6 points on the set.
And it definitely is. I agree with you, but it definitely is their biggest downfall. How aggressive Mohawk is.
It really is, because they focus a lot. It's a very big difference between the men's and female team for Mohawk, as the women's team tries to play a more defensive game, but Mohawk men's puts everything they have into their offense, not worrying too much about defense. But it has come to bite them in the back as they are still down by 4 points. Fanshawe number 11. Jacob Scobie serving the ball. Mitch McFadden keeping it alive. Oh, goes for the volley, and number 5, David Gundrum absolutely goofs up and just, I don't even know what happened. I think he went to volley and it just went right between his hands. And that's an easy point for Mohawk to try to get themselves back into this game.
You can't afford to do those, especially whenever you're playing with the lead.
Especially not against an offensive team like Mohawk. They'll really capitalize on these choices. Lopez is now serving. Oh, but Fanshawe answers right back and puts it right past Lopez with a quick drop. Oh, I stand corrected. That was a point for Mohawk as the ball had gone out of bounds. So the lead is now cut to 2.
Coach Johnson of Fanshawe was looking back as he wasn't sure about the call. The assistant coaches agree that they weren't too sure, but
it seems like nobody's very sure about the call that was just made. But regardless, Lopez is taking the serve for Mohawk currently. And an absolute blast from Fanshawe. And the refs are having a hard time so far this game figuring out how it's going, but it does look like that is a point for Fanshawe as they had some uncertainty on whose point that was there.
It was a point for Fanshawe, and you could see the disbelief and the grief, especially in Mohawk's face whenever they didn't get that point. They'll be a little bit happier with this return here as the ball is just served straight into the net. Once again, Mohawk really isn't out of this game. They've seemed very evenly matched.
They've stayed within 2 so far this set. They've been trailing the whole time, but they really need to assert their offense to come back here.
And the heckling finally works from Fanshawe.
As number 7, Brandon Cochlis, as the heckling gets to him, when he puts a ball directly into the net. Number 6, Will Otten is now serving for Fanshawe. Mitch McFadden comes in with the absolute blast, but Fanshawe blocks it and keeps the ball alive. And Cole Jordan with the absolute blast, the man with 2 first names, puts one right past Chris Dashford, and Fanshawe now has a commanding 4-point lead once again against Mohawk.
And that's two times they've hit it directly in the same place. Mohawk has to start covering these holes because they're just picking them apart.
Mohawk really has to start tightening up on their defense because they're really leaving a lot, as I said, they're really leaving a lot of open holes, and Fanshawe's just finding the way to put them through it.
Good dig there.
And so, 2 Mohawk players go up, 2 players come down, and the ball ends up on their side as Fanshawe now has a 5-point lead.
Timeout called here as Mohawk is very upset. Motion's running high, and Fanshawe looks pumped.
They have a commanding 5-point lead. They're just booming.
Realize if they win this set, then they can really get a chokehold and try and work towards that 10th straight win to start the season.
10 straight wins to start the season. That is absolutely ridiculous, but it's never over yet. I would very much like to see a comeback win from Mohawk to destroy the streak. That would be completely ridiculous.
Well, Mohawk definitely doesn't want to see the set end like this and have Fanshawe come back with really high energy in that 3rd set, or feel as though they are very confident, because when teams get very confident, they can be unstoppable.
They come, but also that's also a thing. They also come complacent. So if Mohawk is able to if Fanshawe becomes complacent with their play and Mohawk is able to capitalize, they really could bring a strong comeback into this game and start themselves back in here.
It's definitely something we're going to have to watch out for here, Wes, as we go along.
The players are coming back on out to the court to start the game up again after that timeout. Fanshawe with the serve, number 6, Will Otten. blast from Mohawk by Lopez, but he puts it out of bounds as Fanshaw's lead increases to 6 points, and Mohawk just making costly errors right now. And a time when they need to be not making them.
Oh, I 110% agree with you. They are going to let this slip away from them. They let them slip away from them. They're really going to start to let the game slip away from them. They don't want that. And that tips off a Fanshawe player.
Looked to be
So
out of bounds
Mohawk
to me,
point.
but it did. But in fact, you're right. It did tip off the Fanshawe player. Very, it's one of Mohawk's greatest assets, but it seems like almost their greatest downfall. They rely on Mitch McFadden very much.
Not only just on Mitch McFadden, but Mitch McFadden's offense, as they didn't even come close to that one.
No. But Mohawk's defense is really what's been letting them down so far, as it has 22-16 so far in this game, and Fanshawe is 3 points away from claiming the set and almost taking a 9-point lead on Mohawk. Let's see if Mohawk can come back here.
Yeah, and when you look back on the first set, they had those digs coming, and that's why that finished at such a close set. This one, they're not getting those digs, and it's really showing on the scoreboard.
No, Mohawk's defense has really slipped since the first set, and it's really shown. Strong defense by Fanshawe as Mitch McFadden goes up once again for the spike, but it ends up coming down, so that is a point for Fanshawe as they are up 23-16.
Liscombe with the serve there.
Mohawk now taking in key to the heckling of the Fanshawe servers, and that is a point for Mohawk because of it. Number 7, Brandon Cokless is now serving. Oh no, but I was wrong. Andrew Kong is serving instead for Mohawk, number 3. Big serve by a little guy. And he keeps the ball alive, Andrew Kong. Trying to pull one out for Mohawk here, but Fanshawe keeps the ball alive, so let's see what Mohawk can do. Big spike by Lopez to give Mohawk a point, and they are starting a little comeback of their own now. It is 23-18.
And that's perfect proof of what we said before, as they're still capitalizing on those chances that they get from Fanshawe when Fanshawe makes a mistake.
That's one of the best things about Mohawk's offense is it's so dynamic and they have so many different ways to attack. But they just were having a problem utilizing them, and they're starting to now. But they still need to tighten up their defense as Fanshawe gets another point and is only 1 point away from taking this set.
Yeah, and that's going to be a death grip on them. They know that. Fanshawe knows that. It's all about coming back here and really not letting this one get away from them. Match point, or set point, I should say.
And a big blast to give Fanshawe the win for that set. Mohawk is now down 2-0. Mohawk looks like they're gonna have to take it into overtime if they hope to win this game. Oh, we have everybody coming over here, lining up for the paper airplane toss.
Oh yeah, second paper airplane toss of the night. Our good buddy Kyle won it the first time. Let's see who wins it this time.
Maybe our good buddy Kyle will win again.
I don't see him lined up there, but I'm looking for him.
Oh, there's one almost right. Oh, there's one right on the X. Two sets here for Mohawk and Fanshawe. Mohawk lost the first set 25-22 and dropped the second one 25-18. It has been a solid first 2 sets for Fanshawe. Mohawk really has to dig deep and force it to overtime if they have a hope of being able to win this game and knock Fanshawe out. And what an upset that would be for Mohawk to come back in the 5th set. But first, Mohawk really has to worry about getting through just the 3rd.
Yeah, that's what I kind of thought. They can't be looking too far ahead. That'll kill them. If they look back on the fact that they're down 2 sets, they're done. What they need to do is look forward and think about start over, start fresh, and come back and get 3 straight sets. Oh, and it looks like we have a winner here for our paper airplane toss.
Mohawk's dynamic offense has really been what's keeping them alive, but it is their abysmal defense which has really cost them so far this game, as their defense has been next to not noticeable, as they have been very, very open and vulnerable, costing themselves at least 5 to 6 points directly up the middle. They have to do a lot better job of tightening up defensively and closing up that middle gap, as Fanshaw's very much enjoyed blasting laser beam shots directly through the middle.
And realistically, Mohawk has figured out how to run that offense. They've done very well, but they just can't seem to get those digs and those big defensive stops when they need them.
No, their first set by far was their best. They just seem to kind of lose their traction, but hopefully they can gain it back again in this third set coming up here.
They're going to have no choice. Either they're going to or they're going to fall, just like the girls did. 3-0.
That is Steven Stone, the head coach of Mohawk. Was the assistant coach, got moved to be the coach after doing obviously a good job. But Mohawk,
yeah, Matthew Schnarr was originally from the boys team, moved down, started coaching the girls team this season, and they really like what he's done so far for the Mohawk team.
But Steven Stone definitely has definitely wanting to pump his players up and give them the motivation that they're going to need to take this third set and force themselves forward into this game.
As you see there, Bugler of Fanshawe sneaking his way into the circle. And we take a look at Mohawk as well, as they're trying to talk this out throughout the team, trying to figure out what exactly went wrong and what they need to do to get to the place they want to be.
And put themselves back into this game.
Exactly.
Teams are taking the court, about to set up here. We got about a minute left in this this here timeout. Setting the mood here in the gym, as we are just hearing the bells toll, and the bells will be tolling for one team soon enough.
Yes, well, Fanshawe's hoping it's going to be them. They want that 10 game. You can see it in their eyes that they are undefeated, and you can tell why. They're gifted, and they're very athletically strong and smart with their IQ on the court.
They're always hungry. And they're always hungry for a win. They're a very just a well-rounded team altogether, as they have had an offense good enough to keep up with Mohawks, but they've also had the strong defense to keep them with the lead so far. And the game's just about to start back up here with Fanshawe, number 5, getting the serve, Gundrum. That is a point for Fanshawe. Almost looked as if Cole Jordan had reached over the net. That is, in fact, I was correct. That is, in fact, a point for Mohawk, as Cole Jordan did, in fact, reach over the net. Now Raphael Light comes back onto the court, replacing Chris Dashford.
And Light's been one of their better players tonight. He's going to have to step it up even further.
He's so far been their best defensive player tonight. But they really got to have their other players step it up if they hope for a win. An absolute blast from Fanshawe, and that is a point, as the Mohawk player just ever so slightly tipped his fingers as he went out. And now Chris Dashford is back in, and Paul Wagner is out, as Mohawk is looking to make up constant changes, try to revamp their team.
I think they're looking for the size advantage here. They want that height. I don't know if that's the right way to go with the fact that they haven't been getting those digs.
No, the missed digs have been a very important loss for Mohawk. They really need to get those digs in there and get these important points. And Lopez with the serve, and what a beautifully placed serve it was, as it just trickles over the net, and Mohawk is up 3-1 on Fanshawe now.
They're going to have to keep up the pressure
here,
They're
going to have to keep up this pressure to continue this on, if they hope to win this third set. Lopez with the serve. That is a point for Mohawk, a perfectly placed ace by Lopez. Just squeaks it in the back line, as Fanshawe thought the ball was going to go out.
Yeah, and that was totally unexpected. They had no idea that was coming. And another serve kind of mixes them up, but they do get this one across.
And an absolute blast from number They're in the huddle. Number 7, Brandon Cokless with an absolute blast puts it off of one of the Fanshawe players and goes out of bounds for the point for Mohawk as they have a 5-1 lead now. Let's see if they can hold
that
this.
offense that we've been talking about so much tonight finally seems to really be clicking.
The dynamic offense is coming off very strong this set to really reinsert Mohawk back into this game. Big block by Raphael Light, proving once again that he has been so far Mohawk's best defensive player this game.
And what a change of events here as Mohawk comes out to start this game 6-1.
And now Fanshawe is in the position of having to call the timeout as the coach is probably concerned about what happened to his team over that break between the last set as Mohawk now has a 5-point lead.
And it's kind of funny. Usually whenever teams start to slip and slide, they start to lose their confidence. That's one thing that Mohawk hasn't really done. They've kept the morale up. They've kept the game strong. And even no matter what, no matter how much they go down by, no matter how many sets they go down by, they don't give up. Looks like we're just about ready to get back underway here.
Coming out back onto the court here, just about to start her up. Mohawk gets to start with the serve after that timeout. Up 6-1. Lopez comes in with the serve. Heckling continuing. Lopez keeping the ball alive for Mohawk and an absolute blast himself, but Fanshawe keeps the ball in play. Cole Jordan with a blast, and it is a point for Fanshawe from a lift by Mohawk. Fanshawe with the serve, number 11 serving here, Jacob Scobie again for Fanshawe. Mitch McFadden makes the play to keep the ball alive. And an absolute blast, but Mohawk cannot keep the ball alive as 3 players dive. And that is a point for Fanshawe as they've gotten 2 quick points here.
And that's what they had to watch out for. That's why they called that timeout, to try and slow down the tempo, slow down the game.
Give themselves put themselves back in the position to dominate the game as they were the last 2 sets. But Mohawk definitely is not going to let that happen. What a play by Mohawk with the assist by Mitch McFadden to Brandon Cokless, who smacks the ball directly through the Fanshawe team. And Mohawk is really dominating right now.
I can't say I've seen a kill quite like that in my day. That was just, it was a weird setup and a weird finish.
That was a setup, set the ball up out of bounds, and it was a complete cross-court spike. But now Cokless starts to serve for Mohawk. Oh, and Fanshawe with an absolute spike past Cokless for the point as Mohawk is still only up 7-3. And Fanshawe has started to close the gap. Let's see if Mohawk can carry on. Keep this lead.
They're taking a second here. They're just going to wipe up the court.
Players are working hard, getting sweaty and greasy, and just left a little bit of a grease mark on the court. Just got to clean her up nice, and then we're all good to go.
And it's kind of funny. Fanshawe here has kind of picked up the pace, play more aggressive almost, to keep up with that aggressive play of Mohawk, which is maybe not the smartest tactic. As
it hasn't really been working out for them.
Yeah, and it seemed as though they had the game under control.
But as we can see now, Fanshawe with the point. No, that is a point for Mohawk, actually. I am standing corrected as it was blasted by Mitch McFadden, and it went off one of the Fanshawe players and out. And that was a serve by Raphael Light, and Fanshawe just lets it float out of bounds as Fanshawe picks up the easy point. And it's now 8-5 for Mohawk. Lopez sends the ball over, almost takes a punch in the face for it, but it works. Lopez with the absolute blast and a point by Lopez. Puts it directly off the Fanshawe player and out of bounds as Mohawk now has a 9-5 lead.
And the Fanshawe, they had their digs on display there, but Just not quite enough from the power of Mohawk on that last kill.
Fanshawe trying to match Mohawk's offense with their own, but it's really backfiring for them, as if they would have stayed with their defensive tactic, it seems like it would have worked out. Mohawk with the service error. Fanshawe now, number 10 on Fanshawe now serving. Mike Bliscombe. An absolute blast by Mitch McFadden, but it gets blocked by Cole Jordan, the man with 2 first names, coming up big for Fanshawe with the block.
And I think it's about time that we start looking for different routes. Mohawk needs to just try something different. McFadden, you know what? McFadden isn't going to work every single game.
By far their strongest striker, but he isn't their only striker that they have. That is a point for Mohawk as Fanshawe touches the net.
Honestly, I think Mohawk needs more players like Brandon Cokeless. He's played a smart game. He hasn't really tried to be that aggressive. And although you haven't heard his name a lot, it's because he hasn't made any mistakes.
He's a very opportune player. He's taking his opportunities that he gets and he runs with them. He's making very smart plays in the chances that he gets, and he really hasn't done too much to hurt the team. He's been definitely their brightest upside so far. Besides, obviously, Mitch McFadden and his offense, he has been so far their best all-around player.
Well, all-around is definitely the way to go, because what differentiates him from McFadden is his defensive game is so much stronger.
McFadden comes in for a big blast, but it gets blocked by Fanshawe. Mohawk's offense now slipping as Fanshawe has came back. Fanshawe going back to their old tactic before of playing hard defense, and it is working against the Mohawk offense as they just could not keep up with Mohawk's offense when they tried to match it. And an absolute blast by number 18 on Mohawk. Paul Wagner puts it past and off multiple Fanshawe players before out of bounds for the point, as they are now up 11-3.
That ended up bumping off the cameraman, I do believe. It's a scary day to be a cameraman or a laptop.
It really is. You really work a dangerous job. Paul Wagner with the serve. Right to Cole Jordan.
That's actually the second time they've done that tonight.
And an absolute blast by Mitch McFadden. Point for Fanshawe as it is double hit by Mohawk.
Mohawk at one point having a huge 5-point lead, now down to 1.
Let's see if Mohawk can keep alive. An absolute blast from Raphael Light, but Fanshawe keeps it on their side. Fanshawe keeping the ball alive after 2 spikes from Mohawk. Mitch McFadden putting the ball over the net. Fanshawe comes in with a spike. Mitch McFadden stepping up his defensive game to keep Mohawk alive, but absolutely firing the ball out of bounds as Fanshawe is now tied with Mohawk 11-11, as Mohawk at one point had a 5-point lead.
What Mohawk is doing right now is they are using more of those digs in the first set that they really lost track of in the second set.
And here we are looking at Cole Jordan going to make the serve for Fanshawe. Has been by far their strongest defensive player for them this game. Oh, what a diving save by Mohawk to keep the ball alive. And just a quick tap over the net, but Mohawk still keeps it alive. Chris Dasher with the set and the blast by Cokeless.
Mohawk's been much more sound defensively here.
Big point by Lopez for Mohawk as he absolutely just blasts it off of the Fanshawe team's hands and out of bounds as they now take the lead again, 11-1, 11-12. Mohawk's offense has definitely been shining through as Lopez serves, but they definitely need to work on their defense and especially their blocks. The boys could definitely take a page out of the girls' handbook, and they do right there as Cokeless goes up for the block, but it is awarded to the Fanshawe team for him touching the net. As I was saying, Mohawk definitely needs to take a page out of the girls' book because they were absolutely astounding on the offense.
Well, especially with their blocks, I think they need to implement that into their game like the girls did. And if they did that, they'd be much better.
Absolute cannon into the other team's bench by Mohawk, and that is a point for Fanshawe. And they now have the lead after once being down by 6 points in this set. Jacob Scobie is now serving for Fanshawe. An absolute blast, but it is out of bounds, and that is another point for Fanshawe.
And what's happened to the precision here? Before they were aiming for places inside. They weren't aiming for the lines. They were aiming to hit that ball inside and just power it through their digs. Now they're trying to get a little bit too fancy, and it's really killing them.
Yeah, Mohawk's offense, they were really fighting strong with their power, but they really need to adapt and change their tone here because their offense is playing great, but their defense isn't playing that good. And they need to, if they really want to win and be able to come back in this game, they either need to change up their offense and make it more dynamic to allow them to gain a lead, or they need to step up their defense because Fanshawe is now up 15-12.
It might sound a little bit simple. They need to get back to the basics. They need to have the classic setup. We need the dig, we need the setup, and then we need the kill. They're trying way too hard to do all these things that they don't need to do.
And that is another point for Fanshawe.
Point proven.
As Mohawk goes up for the block and as Mohawk goes up for the spike, and it just does not come down well, as Mohawk has been very linear in their offense as of the last couple plays. Only been trying to just power it through, and they really need to change up their game plan if they hope to stay alive here.
Oh.
And what a perfectly placed shot by number 11 on Fanshawe.
Yeah,
Jacob Scobie with the perfect serve that just barely trickles over the net, and it is now a timeout by Mohawk as they are now down 5 points after once leading by 6 in the same set. What a turn of events we have here.
Yeah, and that last play, though, that was, for Mohawk, you can't kick yourself for that. I know it's hard not to, but you got to forget about it because that was just a perfectly placed shot that just rolled over the net and perfect for the ace.
There's not much you can do. That's honestly a more shot that comes down to just luck because there's not as much as a player can try to place it at that net. You can't control what the net does. It just so happened that it bounced the right way and just trickled over the net.
We take a quick look here at Steven Stone, the first-year coach for Mohawk. See, where's my Mind Matters shirt? Everyone's supporting the cause here tonight.
Fanshawe goes to the break, obviously trying to keep their momentum going. Mohawk looking to revamp their team once again. I don't know what their coach said in between the second and third set, but he might want to try doing it again as Mohawk now has a 5-point deficit to overcome. Fanshawe, number 11, Jacob Scobie with the serve once again. He has been their fire server so far for this game.
It seems like his name's always coming up when we're saying who's serving for them.
Mitch McFadden with the absolute blunder. Goes to set the ball and it hits him directly in the chest and hits the ground.
Yeah, that's not an error you want to ever take.
Mohawk just taking very costly errors as of late.
I wouldn't even just say as of late. I feel like it's a trend almost for the game.
It has been. Mohawk has been very sloppy so far, and they need to really get tighter and set their offense up. And that is a start as Mohawk gets a point with an absolute blast from Raphael Light. Now number 7, Brandon Koklas is serving for Mohawk.
Let's just hope they could take more advantage of the blunders that Fanshawe gives them like they did in the first set. They had a difficult time in the second set and here so far.
Big Mohawk goes up for a big block, but they managed to get the ball over the net as Fanshawe scores that point and squeeze it through Mohawk's defense. Mohawk's defense has been quite atrocious as of late. So far this entire game as they are now down 6 points after being up 6 points. They have completely flip-flopped the score here in this third set. Mohawk clearly getting frustrated as their offensive woes are starting to set in because they really haven't. They have to be more dynamic with their offense. They really aren't changing up, and they're going with the same constant game plan of dig, set, and have either Light or McFadden spike the ball.
And when you're trying to play with two hitters, it can work if they're unstoppable, but they're obviously very good, just not good enough. You need to spread that ball more around. Oh, and Lopez is not impressed here.
Steven Stone, Coach Steven Stone is absolutely livid after that play as Lopez dove for the ball but did not touch it, but the referee still awarded the point to Fanshawe. They now have a 6-point lead once again. And a point for Fanshawe as they seem to keep finding the holes directly in the middle of Mohawk. They are up now 7 points, 21-14. Mohawk will really have to dig deep here. And these next short bits of the set if they have any hope of staying alive and possibly sending it to another set.
With the size of holes they're putting up there, Wes, you could hit those.
Another spike from Fanshawe. Another hole from Mohawk left open.
And you know the story. 22-14 here for Fanshawe as they're just looking to put Mohawk out of their misery almost. As it's
Coach Stevenstone very unimpressed with the refs so far this game. There has been a couple of very close questionable calls that have been on the line, but that is a solid point as McFadden comes in with a laser beam. This could be the possibility of a Mohawk comeback starting now.
Well, if they are, they're going to have to get more like those two players like McFadden who can hit the ball and hit the ball with authority.
Andrew Kong now coming back from the game to start the serve. He has been quite dynamic in the small amounts of game that he has played so far, but he's been a solid server for Mohawk, so let's see if they can generate some offense here. Fanshawe with the blast, and Chris Dashford diving to keep the ball in, ends up tipping it past his own player out of bounds. And a costly mistake that is. Fanshawe's within 2 points of winning, and they are up now 8 points. Mike Liscombe now with the serve for Fanshawe.
8 points is really going to have to be a real difficult obstacle to overcome here, and they're going to have to get a couple quick ones if they want to even have a chance.
What a diving play by Fanshawe to keep the ball alive. 2 players with absolute desperation saves.
Miscommunication there by Mohawk, followed up by miscommunication by Fanshawe.
And that is a point from Mohawk. Now only down 9 points. Can they come back and take the set?
I think they have a chance if they get 2 or 3 really quick.
Star player Mitch McFadden now up for the serve. Let's see if he can put the game into his own hands and give Mohawk a couple points here. What a save by Chris Dashford. And then an absolute blast by Lopez. And that is no tips. That is out of bounds at a point for Fanshawe as they get even closer. And Stevenstone is absolutely livid as he...
Oh, he wants an explanation. McFadden's got to go up. He's team captain, so he's going to go up and talk and get a reason why that was called the way it was. Maybe get an insight on what the ref saw. Yeah, I don't know why he would have done this. Oh, now he's getting mad with McFadden. This is not really what needs to go on here. He's getting a little bit too angry with no reason. I understand the frustration that's coming from him, but he doesn't need to take it out in this manner.
No. Been a couple close questionable calls, but it's definitely not going to sway the referee in any way, shape, or form.
No. Never does.
And Fanshawe keeps the ball alive. They could end it with this point. There is a call. What is the call here? That is a win for Fanshawe. I'm not quite sure what the call was. I believe it was a lift on Mohawk that gives Fanshawe the 3-set victory. And the game started off close, but it just became more clear who was the better team as Fanshawe just asserted their defensive dominance here as Mohawk's defense just really let them down in this game.
Yeah, so with this, how this game all went down, Fanshawe didn't come out and they didn't look like they were 9-0 versus a losing team.
Fanshawe was not playing like the undefeated team that they are. But as soon as the second set started, they really brought it out and stepped their game up and just really asserted their dominance and really proved why they are now a 10-0 team after beating Mohawk this week.
And then you look at the third set, where Mohawk gets out to a really big lead at the
Mohawk
start.
had a 6-point lead at the start of the third set, but they still ended up dropping it by a total of 9 points.
Which is, I think that is a big contributor to how Fanshawe handles diversity and how they handle things whenever they don't go exactly their way. They changed their game plan up, and it sure worked out to a T here tonight.
And Mohawk really didn't even play that badly in the third set. Their offense was on a roll as they were really getting started, but it was just Fanshawe's overall dominance of offense and defense that really just put Mohawk into the dirt here.
Yeah, they had really improved by the end of the game, I find.
Mohawk improved more and more as the game went on, but it was just very clear how strong of a team Fanshawe was.
It's weird. It
As soon as they clawed themselves out of a 6-point deficit, and then ended up finishing the game with a 9-point victory, and it was just Mohawk has to change their game plan around and maybe focus a little more on defense. As it seems like they put all the cards into their dynamic offense, but it just wasn't dynamic enough for them this game to be able to get them with the victory.
And with this loss, they continue their losing streak. They're definitely going to want to change something up, and I think it's going to have to be that play style that's really aggressive. Well, I think that's about all the time we have
Tonight here at the Mohawk College with the men's and girls volleyball games we've had.
Yeah, we're gonna be back after the new year.
After the new year.
Yeah, we're gonna be back.
We get a little break in between.
Yeah, so we're gonna see if Mohawk can make some changes over the new year, if they can come back a new team in 2018.
New year, new team.
Exactly. For West Linwood, I'm Cody Lake, and this has been OCAA Volleyball here at Mohawk College.